I've been a coroner in Caddo Parish for 17 years. I've seen bodies pulled from the Red River after 3 weeks in summer heat. I've cataloged gunshot wounds, overdoses, house fires. I thought I'd seen every variation of what happens when a human body stops being a person and becomes evidence. I was wrong. It happened on a Tuesday night in late September. The air was thick, that particular Louisiana humidity that sits on your chest like a wet towel. We were out at Oakwood Cemetery, about 40 minutes outside Shreveport. The exhumation order came through that afternoon, routine forensic review for an insurance dispute. The deceased, a man named Curtis Bellamy, had been buried 8 months prior. His family contested the cause of death, wanted a second autopsy. Standard procedure. Nothing about the paperwork raised any flags. We arrived around 11 p.m. Night exhumations aren't unusual. Keeps the media away, spares the families from curious onlookers. I had my assistant, a kid named Troy Finch, maybe 26, good with details. 2 cemetery workers operated the backhoe. Their supervisor, Randall, stood off to the side with a clipboard, making sure we didn't damage anything we weren't supposed to. The dig went smooth at first. Soil came up dark and damp. The backhoe's engine growled in steady rhythm. Then metal scraped metal. We'd hit the vault. That's the concrete box that holds the casket. Protects it from the earth pressing down. Troy and I climbed into the hole to attach the straps. That's when I felt it. A hum. Not a sound exactly, more like a vibration traveling up through my boots. I stopped, hand on the vault lid. "You feel that?" I asked. Troy nodded. His face had gone pale under the work lights. "What is that?" Randall called down from above. "Generator, probably. Let's keep moving." But it wasn't the generator. I've worked 100 night exhumations. I know what equipment sounds like. This was different. This came from below. We hoisted the vault lid. Inside, the casket looked intact. Mahogany, brass handles. Expensive. The kind of box that costs more than most people make in 3 months. That's when it happened. The lid moved. Not much. Maybe half an inch. But it lifted, just slightly, then settled back down, like something inside had pushed against it. Exhaled. Troy stumbled backward, nearly fell. "Did you?" "I saw it." Nobody spoke. The backhoe had gone quiet. I could hear crickets in the grass beyond the lights, could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. "Could be gas buildup," I said. Tried to keep my voice steady. "Bodies release methane as they decompose. Sometimes it creates pressure." But I didn't believe it. Gas doesn't make a casket lid rise like that. Doesn't make it settle back down so gently. Randall leaned over the edge of the hole. "We doing this, or what?" I knelt beside the casket, put my hands on the lid. The wood felt warm. Not sun warm or ambient temperature warm. Body warm. Like something living was pressed against the other side. "Help me with this," I told Troy. He didn't move. "Troy." He came forward, hands shaking. Together we worked the seal. Modern caskets locked tight, rubber gaskets, pressure seals. It took both of us to break it loose. The smell hit first. But not decay. That's what should have been there. 8 months of decomposition, even in a sealed casket. Instead, it smelled like turned earth, like a root cellar, like waiting. We lifted the lid. Curtis Bellamy looked exactly like his funeral photos. Not bloated, not discolored. His skin still had color. His hair lay neat across his forehead. He wore a gray suit, hands folded across his chest. Everything positioned exactly as it had been the day they buried him, except his mouth. It was open, wide, jaw extended like he'd been screaming, and the inside of the casket lid. Troy made a sound, somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. The wood was destroyed. Long gouges, deep scratches, splinters torn away, like someone had clawed at it. Frantically, desperately, the satin lining hung in shreds. But Curtis Bellamy's fingernails were clean, intact. No tissue under them, no blood, no wood fragments. Post-mortem contraction, I heard myself say. Muscles can spasm after death, sometimes for hours. Sometimes they... Troy grabbed my arm. "Do you hear that?" I did. A voice, soft, barely audible, coming from the casket. Not yet. 2 words, whispered, like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. Not yet. I've worked death for 17 years. I've seen things that would empty a normal person's stomach. But I've never heard a corpse speak. Randall called down again. "Everything okay?" I couldn't answer. I was staring at Curtis Bellamy's face, his open mouth, waiting for it to move, waiting for those lips to form words. Troy climbed out of that hole so fast he left tool marks in the dirt wall. Randall helped pull him up. I stayed. Don't know why. Maybe because I needed to understand. Maybe because after 17 years, you stop being afraid of the dead. Or maybe I just hadn't met the right corpse yet. I reached down, touched Curtis Bellamy's hand. His skin felt wrong. Not cold like a body in refrigeration. Not warm like something living. Somewhere in between, like he was suspended. The medical examiner's report listed cause of death as cardiac arrest. Sudden, unexpected. Curtis was 41, no prior conditions. His wife found him in bed one morning. Just gone. But standing there in that hole, staring at those claw marks, I wondered, what if he wasn't gone? What if his heart stopped, but something else kept going? Some part of him that doesn't show up on EKGs or brain scans. Some part that woke up in the dark, 6 feet under, and realized it was trapped. We closed the casket, logged everything. I wrote post-mortem contraction in my report because that's what the paperwork demanded. But every man who touched that casket heard it. Troy won't talk about it. Refuses. Randall requested a transfer to a different cemetery. I still do exhumations. Still go out on Tuesday nights when the orders come through. But now, before we break the seal, I listen. Sometimes if the night is quiet enough, I hear it again. Not yet. And I wonder, how many others are down there? Waiting, whispering, clawing at lids nobody will ever open. Curtis Bellamy was reburied 3 days later. Different plot, different cemetery. His casket is still warm. I've examined over 2,000 bodies in my career as a coroner. I know what death looks like. I know the stages, the timeline, the chemistry. I know that flesh doesn't last, that bone eventually wins, that 80 years underground leaves nothing but skeleton and maybe some scraps of cloth. So when the Diocese of New Orleans contacted me about exhuming Sister Veronica Mabry, I expected bones, maybe some hair. That's it. I was catastrophically wrong. The exhumation was scheduled for early October. The air had finally cooled, though not much. This is Louisiana. We were at St. Catherine's Cemetery in Baton Rouge, a small Catholic burial ground tucked behind an old brick church. The place had been there since the 1890s. Moss hung from the oak trees like gray curtains. The kind of spot that feels removed from time, even at noon. Sister Veronica had been buried in 1945, died at 43. The records said she devoted her life to caring for the poor, running a clinic out of the church basement during the Depression. Locals claimed she had healing hands, said she could ease fevers with a touch, calm seizures with a prayer. The diocese wanted to investigate her for beatification, the first step toward sainthood. That meant examining her remains, documenting any signs of incorruptibility. Incorruptibility. That's the phenomenon where a saint's body doesn't decay normally. The Church considers it a sign of divine preservation. Scientifically, it's usually explained by embalming chemicals, soil composition, or environmental factors. Low oxygen, high mineral content, nothing supernatural. I brought my colleague, a forensic anthropologist named Rita Dupree. She specializes in historical remains. We'd worked together before on colonial-era excavations. Rita doesn't spook easy. We started digging at 7 a.m. The grave was deep, 6 feet, old style. Back then, they didn't use concrete vaults, just wooden coffins straight into the earth. I expected the box to be collapsed. The wood rotted through after 8 decades. But when the cemetery workers' shovels hit something solid, I heard wood. Intact wood. Rita looked at me. That's unusual. We cleared the dirt carefully, brushed it away with hand tools. The coffin emerged whole. Simple pine, darkened with age, but structurally sound. No collapse, no cave-in. Soil preservation, I said. Must be the mineral content. Rita didn't respond. She was staring at the coffin like it was something alive. We hoisted it out with straps. Set it on the grass beside the grave. A priest stood nearby. Father Lyle Brennan, maybe 60. Gray hair, kind eyes. He'd brought a photographer to document everything. Standard procedure for beatification cases. I knelt beside the coffin, put my hand on the lid. The wood felt cold, expected. But there was something else. A faint vibration, like a hum running through it. You feel that? I asked Rita. She nodded. Her face had gone very still. Father Brennan stepped closer. What is it? Probably traffic, I said. Vibrations from the road. But we were half a mile from the nearest highway. I worked the seal. The coffin wasn't nailed shut, just a simple sliding lid. It took some effort, swollen with moisture and time. But it gave. I heard Rita inhale sharply beside me. The smell came first. Not decay. Not the thick, gagging stench of decomposition. Roses, fresh-cut roses, sweet and overwhelming, like walking into a florist's cooler. I lifted the lid. Sister Veronica Mabry lay inside, exactly as she must have looked the day they buried her. Her habit was still black, though faded. Her hands were folded across her chest, holding a wooden rosary. And her face looked alive. Not bloated or discolored, not mummified or leathered. Her skin was pale, smooth, almost translucent. Like milk glass. Her lips had color. Her eyelids were closed, lashes dark against her cheeks. Embalming, I heard myself say. They must have used formaldehyde, high concentration. That would preserve. Rita grabbed my wrist. Look at her hands. The skin was moist. Not wet, not decomposing. Moist. Like she'd just washed them. Like blood still moved underneath. Father Brennan made the sign of the cross, whispered something in Latin. The photographer's camera clicked. Once, twice, then stopped. He lowered it slowly, staring. We need to move her, I said. Get her to the examination table. Rita and I reached into the coffin, slid our hands beneath Sister Veronica's shoulders and knees. Her body felt light, too light, like hollow bones, bird bones. We lifted her. That's when it started. Clear liquid began seeping from beneath her closed eyelids, slowly at first. Just small drops gathering at the corners, then more, steady, running down her temples into her hair. She was crying. Rita's hands were shaking. "That's not possible." "It's embalming fluid," I said. My voice sounded thin, distant. Pressure from movement. It's forcing preserved fluids out through, but I couldn't finish. Because the tears weren't stopping. They ran in steady streams, soaking into the fabric of her habit. And with them, the smell of roses grew stronger, suffocating. Father Brennan dropped to his knees, started praying. The photographer backed away, camera forgotten. I've seen bodies leak before. Purge fluid, decomposition gases forcing liquid out through any opening. But that's dark, viscous, foul-smelling. This was clear, clean, like water, like tears. Rita set Sister Veronica's legs down gently, stepped back. "I can't do this." "It's a chemical reaction," I said. But my hands were trembling. When we moved her, we created pressure. The fluid has nowhere to go. She's crying, Rita said. Her voice broke. "Look at her face." I looked. Sister Veronica's expression had changed. Not much, just slightly. Her mouth. It had been relaxed before. Now it curved downward, just barely, like grief, like sorrow. The liquid kept coming, dripping onto the grass. And I noticed something else. Where the tears fell, the grass seemed greener, brighter, like something in those drops fed the earth. We laid her on the examination table we'd set up under a tent. I took samples of the fluid, photographed everything, measured her body temperature, 68 degrees, ambient, expected. But when I touched her skin to position her arm, it felt warm. Just for a second, just beneath the surface, like something was waking up. The analysis took 3 days. The fluid came back as mostly water. Trace minerals, sodium, potassium. Nothing unusual, nothing that explained the preservation. The embalming records from 1945 showed they'd used standard formaldehyde solution. Nothing special, nothing that would keep a body intact for 80 years. Rita refused to continue the investigation. Put in her resignation. Father Brennan called it a miracle. The diocese fast-tracked Sister Veronica's beatification process. I wrote natural preservation due to environmental factors in my report, because that's what science demanded. But I've examined 2,000 bodies, and I know what death looks like. Sister Veronica Mabry didn't look dead. She looked like she was sleeping, waiting. And when we disturbed her, when we pulled her from the earth where she'd rested for 8 decades, something in her knew, something responded. They reburied her the following week. Different location, a tomb inside the church, visible behind glass so pilgrims can visit. I attended the reinterment, watched them seal her inside marble and steel. Her eyes were still closed, but I swear, right before they shut the tomb, I saw moisture gathering beneath her lids again, and the smell of roses followed me home. I don't do sainthood investigations anymore. When the diocese calls, I decline, because I understand now what I didn't before. Some bodies don't want to be disturbed. Some sleep holds consciousness we can't measure. And when you wake them, even accidentally, they know. Sister Veronica Mabry weeps behind glass now. Pilgrims say her tears cure sickness. They collect the moisture that appears on the tomb's interior, dab it on their foreheads like holy water. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is divine. But I touched those tears, felt them on my skin, and they felt like grief.